Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome, everybody, to another glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting off the beautiful shore of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. I was all down at the pier, San Diego today, checking out the boats, little ones running around, so it was all fun and games. Our TPOW podcast is my Twitter handle, and RHOLM22 is Ryan's. Please subscribe, like, 5-star review on iTunes, all that good stuff. Share it with a friend. Please do so. In the next coming weeks, we have some big stuff coming up too. We're going to do a really deep dive into Josh McDaniels' offense, get you ready for the Raiders and Chargers. No more non-alcoholic beer, if you will, for the season here. You got real football coming up here on September 11th, and then you also have on the 8th. Well, right, yeah, the 8th. We have Bills, Rams, and go Rams, because you want to. I want every AFC team to lose this year. Every loss matters right now. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Yeah, beautiful weather out here. I'm in Ventura County. I went to Ventura today, walked down Main Street, farmers market, went to lunch with the family. So it was good. And then I came home and rewatched special teams plays from the game last night. That's where I'm at.
That's how hardcore
Who's
we
on
are.
special teams?
That's how hardcore we are on the Put On Raiders podcast. Watching special teams. Who else watches special teams? I was gonna say, and I also do you like Jamaican food? Like Caribbean food? If you're in San Diego, because I know sometimes you come down here, Rock Steady is as a Jamaican, that is the closest to
Good song too.
Yeah, it is a good song. I love that song. Rock Steady, great Jamaican restaurant in San Diego, closest to being on the islands from what I've tasted out here in Southern California. Recapping the week that was with the Raiders and the Patriots here. So all the reports we heard that the Raiders were kind of dominating, whipping up on the Patriots, just making hay of them the whole time. Ryan, it kind of looked like that way in this game. A couple of times, maybe Mac Jones got away for a scramble, something like that. But for the most part, I mean, the Raiders' second and third teams did a great job against what looked like the Patriots' first team.
Yeah, we had heard in the scrimmages that the ones versus the ones, the Raiders pretty much had their way for the majority of those two practices. Other than I think the Patriots in the 2-minute drill at the end got in the end zone both times. But for the most part, the Raiders offense and defense seemed to do whatever they wanted to do. And then they won, obviously, the one-on-one matchups, the red zone matchups. Then we get to the game last night, and the Patriots ran their ones out there on offense and defense for about a quarter and a half. And the Raiders' second and third team unit pretty much shut them down.
Yeah.
Stopped them on fourth down, I believe, on a drive to the second or third drive by the Patriots. But a couple 3-and-outs, a turnover. I think the defense ended up forcing 4 turnovers in that game, which gave the offense great field position. But I'm excited about this Patrick Graham defense. If they can play this well with the backups, what's it going to look like when Crosby and Jones and Yasin and Hobbs are out there and Perryman? So I'm excited to see what kind of defense the Raiders are going to field this year.
And I don't think they had did the Raiders in the preseason give up a first half touchdown?
I'm not sure. I don't know off the top of my head. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I can't think of them. But like they don't make they haven't made a lot of mistakes. We somebody jinxed it already because they said the Raiders was the least penalized team in preseason. So it's going to be 11 flags against the Chargers. And I think and they didn't turn the ball over. I think Britton Brown did fumble. But the Raiders did recover it. Yeah. They recovered it, but in the no INTs. I just, as I go through my list real quick, I thought an offensive coordinator or a play caller like Josh McDaniels. I like what I saw from Stidham. I like what I saw from Garbers. I feel like they got better every single week. Acclimated with their teammates. Really distribute the ball all over the place. They were in command. And if Stidham is probably going to be Stidham is the backup. Garbers might be practice squad. Who knows? But they look like guys who, if they had to play a player or two, a half, maybe with the one receivers, maybe we should be able to get something going. You know, as far as that goes, because Stidham early on was holding the football, but now he seems to be getting that ball out a little bit more on time.
Yeah, the Raiders were very vanilla in preseason. They were
But
probably
they're
running
moving
about
it for
10
being vanilla,
plays.
though. Isn't
Yeah.
that crazy?
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see when they open up the playbook here
Yeah.
in the next couple of weeks, early in the season, how deep they're going to get into it. But they executed what they were asked
Yeah.
to do. It was a very small set of plays, but Stidham has gotten better. I think Stidham can go in now. I don't think he's going to go on the road and beat the Chiefs. He's
Hell
not going to
no.
beat the Bills. But if you need him to go in there and beat the Seahawks, or he needs to play against one of these lesser teams, the Falcons or someone, I think he's got an opportunity to give you a chance as long as the
Mhm.
defense holds up. But if we get to that point of the season where those guys have to play an entire game or two, I don't know
No.
what it's going to look like. But he's serviceable, and that's pretty
No.
much what every team in the league has. Like the Raiders don't have the luxury of having a backup quarterback as good as Marcus Mariota was the last 2 years.
They were spoiled with that. They're definitely spoiled with that, and they
Yeah.
also could have utilized that a little bit more. Um, as we see what he's doing in Atlanta right now. White versus Brown, like the power of Zamir White and the shiftiness of Britton Brown. I just so hear me. So the thing about it is, I just when I look at it naturally, and I don't care about. I don't in my mind say so and so was drafted here, so and so was a undrafted free agent who I don't know. I don't think he ever played. Did he ever play for Chip Kelly? I don't remember him ever. I don't remember him even suiting up for UCLA Bruins. He just looks naturally gifted with catching the ball, catching screen passes, the shiftiness. He had one move where he, was looked like a sweep to the right, and he just cut it back and went right up the field, and every left all the Patriots broken ankles, sliding to the sidelines. Um, I know Zamir's their guy, and Brown might be the guy who gets the axe. We'll find out who gets the axe here on our show, because Ryan's going to do his 53 man roster with no cheating, like some people are doing on Twitter. But I kind of like Brown better than White. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's a small sample size, everything like that. But I gotta take their word for it as far as how it goes, because they see it. They have a vision for what Zamir White is going to be in this offense.
Yeah, and if you think about Josh McDaniels, I believe in St. Louis he had Steven Jackson and Cadillac Williams, I think, was on the same team. I could be wrong with the second running, but he had two running backs that ran the ball quite frequently. And then you get to the Patriots, and while he's been there, he's always that second back has always been the bigger back
Mm-hmm.
between the tackles, whether it's Sony Michel or Mondre Stevenson, these type of guys, LeGarrette Blunt. And I think that's the role White's going to fit into on this offense. Um, don't get me wrong, Britton Brown's an NFL running back.
Yes,
I
no
don't think
question.
he's going to get claimed. Every team around the league is looking around at their third or fourth back that might get cut, and they all think they're all going to get claimed by other teams. But at this point, when you're putting these depth charts together, whoever that third or fourth down back's going to be, I don't think Britton Brown's going to be a third down back. He's a backup running back, and
Mm-hmm.
teams already have the guy in place that they want. And then, but he does play a ton of special teams. That's kind of the thing I kept noticing when I went back and watched the special teams. He was
Mm-hmm.
on the kick coverage unit. He was on the punt coverage unit.
Mm-hmm.
He's running down on coverages. So if a team needs a third back and they want to get him, but I have a suspicion. I don't know what the Raiders are going to do here. I don't want to spoil it with my 53 reveal, but he will find a place in the National Football League for sure. Whether that's on the practice squad or a 53 man, we'll find out.
Yeah, T Billy versus I nickname Keenan Cole the professional, because he just seems like a professional wide receiver. And I just don't know. You saw the tape as far as the special teams go. I mean, I think I think T Billy plays a little bit more special teams, and I think T Billy is just the guy who he's one of the, and you saw that on the deep ball. You know, he's going to be a guy who can take top off. I mean, if he's on, you have to respect his speed and along. And he's gonna slip through and get a and catch a Derek Carr deep ball a couple of times this year, because of all the weapons the Raiders have. What are your thoughts about that little battle here? I think Keelan Cole is probably as good as he has looked in this offense, even though it's been vanilla in this preseason. I think he's going to be gone.
Yeah, he played late into the fourth quarter, which was not a good sign because I'm looking out there. It's the middle of the fourth quarter. I'm like, why is Cole in the slot? Like, why is
Mhm.
Turner not out there? Why is Stoner not in the slot? Where's Zuber?
Mhm.
Where's Hall? Like,
Yep.
where are these guys?
Yep.
Um, I think they like Hall. I don't think they played him a lot. They didn't want to showcase him. I think he'll end up on the practice squad. We'll see what happens with Cole, but he doesn't play special teams as far as kick coverage or punt block or anything like that. He's a kick returner if you need him to, but I think you have other guys in this roster that can do that. The whole time I've been saying they're going to keep six, and then when I ran the number, I've been looking at this for like the last week, and I looked at it again today. The Raiders are going to need guys that need to be special teams like stalwarts on this roster because after at each one of these positions, when you get past the starters, you probably have about 10 guys that you can put on this roster and say, yeah, these guys are locks because they're good players and backups at those positions. But after that, these guys have to play special teams. I'm looking at them. I'm looking at the list on my computer. I'm like, who's playing special teams that's left? Okay, I got to put this guy on, take this guy
Mhm.
off. Um, Turner, I'm sorry, Johnson. He was on He was a gunner on kick on punt. He was a blocker on the outside on punt. He was back to return kickoff. So I think, as the fourth receiver on this team, he's going to play quite a bit of special teams as well. And like you said, he gives you that speed element. So we'll break down the wide receivers when we get to that point.
Yep. On this little tease here, we're getting there, folks. We're getting there. DJ Turner, breaking tackles, doing this thing. I mean, that's I've been banging the table for DJ Turner to get some burn, and he has. Masterson tackle for loss, good job in coverage, getting the INT, and talk about the reverse field here. As soon as he catches the ball on the interception, he looked really good in the open field. He could be
Not
a
like
guy.
Alan Levitt against the Bengals.
Dude, I was at that game and I could not imagine him running the wrong. I don't know why he was running the wrong way. I don't know why he was running the wrong way. That could have cost the Raiders the playoffs. Um, and then the size, the speed, and he's a little bit up and down. But Sam Webb, we like Sam Webb. Thoughts about Sam Webb, Bauer, and then Butler before we go to your 53.
Yeah, I thought Webb had a good game again. He gave up some catches underneath, but he was right there, made the tackles. He had that shallow crossing route on third down where he stayed on the guy's hip, made a tackle to force a punt. I like the size. I like the development aspect of Sam Webb, and he has spent some time on special teams in the preseason as well. Um, my last two that I had to put on this roster was a very interesting set of about three or four guys. We'll get to that. I'm not going to
Uh-huh.
give anything away, but Sam
Yeah.
Webb was in that conversation. Um, Butler as well. I think Butler, the linebacker, Darian Butler, stepped up and he struck some offensive linemen. Was a little bit more physical in the run game this week than he has been. We'll see what ends up with him. How many linebackers are they going to keep? I thought he had one of his better games this week as well. And then obviously,
About time.
Tashawn Bauer. I tweeted out yesterday, he's a lock. I don't know how you could cut Tashawn Bauer at this point because he's big, he's
Yeah.
strong, he can play the edge, he can set the edge in the run. He's got some strength. You saw some speed to power in the pass rush. He's got 4 sacks this
Yeah.
preseason, and if you need to give Crosby or Jones a break on early downs, you can put him in there as a run stuffer, and then he can hold his own if they decide to pass on first or second down.
Especially with Jordan Jenkins and Fackrell and those guys. I
Yeah.
mean, like the guys who like you may have counted on to be the third and fourth sack options. I mean, pass rushing options. It just seemed like it just makes sense for Bauer to make it, and he's earned it. He really has earned it. So we'll see what the final 53 on I believe it's on Tuesday when they have to make that official with the Raiders, Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler crunching numbers and seeing what they got to do as well. And listen, maybe they keep a spot open for a right tackle. We'll have to see what's going on there. It's time. It's time now. We're not gonna beat around the bush anymore. This is what Ryan does. He loves doing this, so I love to hear his thoughts about it. So I'm gonna try to keep track of everything going on. So here is going to be Ryan Holmes and his 53-man roster for this version of the Las Vegas Raiders. Can I pick a you want to pick a position or you want to run right through it? How you want to do it?
Yeah, you can go by position, and this is 53. This isn't 54 because so and so might go on IR. Like these are the guys that have to be on the roster come Tuesday at 1 o'clock. And then obviously there's going to be some changes after that. We don't know the health status of Parker or Munford or Hollister or some of these guys that haven't practiced. So like, if you want to use them this year, they have to be on that 53 man. I may keep some of those guys on here, and some of the guys I cut might make the team after those guys get put on IR. But this is the 53 that I think will be on the roster at 1:00 on Tuesday.
Okay, let's rock and roll. So here, let's go boring and start quarterback.
Yeah, Derek Carr, I think, is obviously the starter here, and then Jared Stidham. I do think that Chase Garber's played well enough to get onto the practice squad, though.
Oh. Behind the quarterback is the running back, and we know Josh Jacobs isn't going anywhere, and Josh Jacobs is going to be on this football team. So, and Drake is gone. Does that clear the way to make some interesting situations here as far as the running backs go?
Yeah, I kept it simple here. I kept 4 traditional running backs. Obviously, I think Jacobs is going to get majority of the carries here. Zamir White, I think, is going to get some carries to spell him. And then obviously, I do think there is a role for White when they get inside the 10, down inside the low red zone, just to power the ball in.
Mm-hmm.
I think Abdullah makes this team clearly. He hasn't played in the last 3 preseason games. He's going to be the third down back. He does give you special teams value. He can return kicks. And then I know a lot of Raider fans out there are crapping all over Brandon Bolden. They haven't seen him. They don't think he should play. Britton Brown, he's rushed for all these yards in the preseason, but Bolden's going to be on this team. He's a veteran. He's a special teams captain. He can be a third down back. He can be your short down back. You can use him in a ton of different roles. And then, like I said, he's going to play on all the coverage teams on special teams. Britton Brown was one of the final 4 guys I had in mind. I couldn't keep him on the final 53. I just don't think with the holes they have on the rest of this roster, you have the luxury to keep a 5th running back. He will end up on the practice squad as long as another team doesn't put him on the 53. And I also think Walters will end up on the practice squad as well. And then at fullback, Johnson's the only fullback on the roster. So, I kept Johnson as well. So those are the 5 backs that I would keep: Jacobs, White, Abdullah, Bolden, Johnson.
I mean, Abdullah was a guy. Abdullah was a guy who was right next to Derek Carr the whole time in training camp, and everybody, nobody's talking about it. But Abdullah is the guy who's on this roster. They have a clear role for Abdullah. So those are the 5, and I don't see how Britton Brown kind of breaks that. So Britton Brown probably goes to the practice squad. If somebody grabs him, somebody grabs him. As far as that goes. Let's go to center, or let's go to defensive end.
We're going to jump to the defensive side. I think so. I like categorized as edge. So these are defensive ends / outside linebackers. I ended up keeping 5. I think Crosby and Jones are safe for sure. Kuntz is going to be on this team. Kuntz did play a lot of special teams as well. I think he's going to be a key special teams guy as well. Bauer I have on this team, and I believe Cleveland Farrell has a spot on this team as far as he's similar to Bauer, where he can be that edge setter. If you need a guy, if there is an injury, he can play him on early downs. And he did slide inside and play defensive tackle, although I don't think he's great in there. He does have the flexibility to do that, so there is some versatility to keep him on the roster. And at this point, he has no trade value, and you're not going to eat $10 million to move on from him and then have to go sign another guy, especially if he's your 4th or 5th edge. But Farrell does play special teams as well, and I thought it was interesting that Farrell only played about a quarter in this game after not being active all preseason, and then Bauer played the entire game. So I do think there is a role for Cleveland Farrell on this roster. And when we get to the inside defensive linemen, you'll see they're going to need some guys with a little bit of pass rush. Maybe you want to put 3 or 4 defensive ends out there in certain packages, mix up the fronts. If they want to play a 4-3 and they need to put someone in there on certain packages, and Farrell can be that guy. So I think there is enough versatility to keep him on this roster as the 5th edge guy.
So you got Crosby, Jones, Kuntz, Bauer, and Cleveland Farrell.
Sure. Those are the 5 edge.
5 edge. Defensive tackles now. I already put Hankins and Nichols in there. So I think it's pretty safe. I'm gonna go on a limb and do that one. Who else is gonna be the defensive tackles for this Raiders team?
Billings is safe. He's going to make this team. And I think Billings is actually going to be the 3rd starter. He hasn't played the last 2 games, and he looked pretty good in some of the snaps he got. He's a bigger guy and he can move around, and then he can also play, the nose if anything happens to Hankins. If you would have asked me this prior to yesterday, I wouldn't have had both Neil Farrell and Butler on this roster. I don't think they showed enough, but after yesterday and seeing a lot of snaps from him, you started to see it. I think Neil Farrell had his best game of the preseason. I think Matthew Butler showed that he can get after the pass rusher. So I'm going to keep both of those guys. And I'm going to keep a sixth guy here. I think they're going to keep 6. So 11 total defensive linemen, but I think it's because they're going to play so many different fronts, so many different packages, and you just need to have depth. And some of these guys are one-trick ponies. Like Jonathan Hankins is in there to stop the run. He doesn't give you any pass rush.
Yeah.
Billings is there to stop the run. Nichols is there to get after the passer. Farrell's there to stop the run. So you need another guy that can rush the passer out of this group. I don't think Butler's ready to play a ton of snaps. So I like Vickers. I think Kendall Vickers will be that sixth guy because you can play him at defensive end. You can play him inside a defensive tackle. You can play him in the nickel. I think there's enough versatility in Vickers' games to get him on this roster. And I think Kyle Petco isn't going to make this team, or Lancaster, who looked like he's hurt. I liked Petco as kind of that 2-gap defensive tackle. I thought he had a pretty good camp. He's got some decent film. I just don't think there's a spot on this roster for him at this point because you have guys that can do that, and Hankins, Billings, and Farrell.
I was just gonna, as you were going through that list, I was just gonna say, where's Kendall Vickers? Was he gonna be that surprise guy? But yeah, you mentioned some of the guys one-trick ponies can only do one thing. I mean, if it's 3rd and 7, you're not gonna have Jonathan Hankins at defensive tackle in that moment, so it just makes sense to have to change it up a little bit. And I think that it really was nice to have. I'm not sure if they had a good week of practice because obviously, we didn't have you like we did last year in the hills of California watching practice against the Rams, like we did last year. But Butler and Farrell Jr. Those guys, really showed up well against the Patriot ones. That was nice to see too. So I'll give him some props there. So that was good to see him kind of make that. You want to waste draft picks, so good job by the Raiders to hopefully get those guys some burn, at least Butler at the very least, because he got some pass rush in there.
Yeah, and I think because I'm keeping 11 there, that's a spot that could have gone to Cole or could have gone to Brown, Britton Brown. So like for every guy I'm keeping at one position, you got to lose someone at another position, or maybe it's a defensive back that doesn't make this team. But I do think they need a lot of defensive linemen on this team, and because I just don't think Farrell and Butler are ready to give you a lot of snaps right now in a rotation. They may come in and play 5 to 10 snaps a game at most. Like, these guys aren't ready to be contributors, especially if there's any injuries. And we haven't seen Nichols. Billings hasn't played in 2 weeks. Hankins played 2 quarters. So they're going to need some healthy big guys because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, those, and you know what? It's going to be one position group on every team because these guys don't, because the hitting, lack of pads, all that other good stuff, whatever. I mean, whoever knows what the deal is, but something that a rash of injuries is going to happen in some position group on on each football team, and you never know. So having depth is going to be really important. Linebacker, I got. I'm saying I'm going to go guess Perryman, Diablo, and Brown are on the team.
Yeah, I ended up keeping 4. I wanted to keep 5.
Yeah.
Because when I started looking around the roster, I'm like, who's going to play special teams? It's not going to be Perryman. You would think Diablo is going to play some, but you don't want him to play a ton. Jayon Brown, one of those guys is going to have to play a lot of special teams. I would assume it's Jayon Brown. I kept Masterson. I've been on Masterson since basically after the Jaguars game. I kind of brought him up. I said I would keep him over Butler just because he's got better movement skills. I think the coaching staff really likes him. He's been wearing the green helmet. He's the guy that's going to call the defense if something happened to Perryman and he needed to go in there and play. He showed out on special teams this week. He got an interception. I just think he's a better player than Butler. Butler was probably one of the last 2 guys I had to cut off this team, and I would love to get him onto the practice squad. I just don't think there's a spot on this team for a 5th linebacker. I like Bolton too, but I just think Bolton, little undersized. He's probably going to be a special teams guy, nickel guy, but you don't need that guy on this roster because you have Diablo and Brown that basically do that already. He might catch on with another team. And even Ty Davis, he had a special teams tackle on kick coverage. I didn't see anything on defense that really stood out from him just from the broadcast. I don't think he did enough to make this team. So
I think the Raiders
would.
You think Bolton could be stashed on practice squad and and develop, or you feel like that's going to be?
I think they're fine with Butler. They're going to play them. They're going to be a nickel so much and big nickel.
Yeah, that's true.
Where you're going to have Abram down there too, playing over the slot. That I don't think you need to carry 5 linebackers on this team.
Makes sense. Safety. We got I know Moreg is the one guy who definitely in Teamer. What are your thoughts about anybody else?
Yeah, I think there's 4 here, and it's pretty obviously those 4 are going to be. I think it's Merrick, Abram, Harmon, and Teamer. Those are the 4. It's interesting. I don't remember seeing Farley play much in this game. I don't know if he even played or if he's injured, but something's up where he didn't play in this game. But I don't think that he's shown enough to make this team over some of these other guys. I would much rather have Butler or Webb, or Cole, or Barton, or one of these other guys that was at the back end of the roster. I think gives you more value than a 5th safety. And I think because they can play a lot of big nickel, and because you have a guy like Diablo that can go out and play in the slot, if you want to play, a big package with 3 linebackers, and they did this a little bit in the game yesterday where they had 3 linebackers on the field with 4 defensive backs, but they were kind of playing nickel where the linebacker was out over the slot. You can do that with Diablo. So I think, having a guy that can move around like Diablo helps you here. Only have to carry 4 safeties.
And they gave, I mean, I know he might have been hurt too, but I do think they gave Diablo a little Colton Miller treatment here this offseason. I mean, I think they really, I can see them doing a lot with Devon Diablo. I really do. I'm excited to see what happens there with his development under Patrick Graham. Cornerback now we got Mullen, Amik Roberts. I mean, people like that. I mean, who do you think is going to make up this finish the secondary out with the cornerbacks?
Yeah, that's just tough for me because I really wanted to keep 6.
Yeah.
I only kept 5 because I think there's some injuries we just don't know about on the offensive side of the ball well enough to say this guy's going to be back in 2 weeks or this guy's going to miss 8 weeks and is going to go on IR. So I ended up keeping 5 because I had to keep an extra offensive lineman, and we don't know what's going to happen with Leatherwood. So I had to go. Yeah, I had to go 5 here. So I went Rock Ya-Sin, Nate Hobbs, Mullen, Averett, and Phillips. I think Averett and Phillips are going to play a ton of special teams. I could even see Mullen and Hobbs playing some special teams as well. I really wanted to keep Sam Webb. Sam Webb would be 54 if we could go 54. So I think there is a chance that if someone goes on IR, whether that's Parker or Mumford or Hollister or any of these guys, whoever's hurt, that Sam Webb's a guy where they can basically tell him at cutdown day, hey, we're going to put so-and-so on IR tomorrow so we can bring him back. Stay at the facility. We're going to sign you to the roster tomorrow. So I don't think they're going to be in jeopardy of losing him to another team.
Yeah.
Or they could even get him on the practice squad. It's tough because we see the Raiders players, but every team around the league probably has corners they like. There could be a team that's short a corner and likes him. And at that point, you tip your cap to the scouting department for finding him and giving him an opportunity, but also for Sam Webb for actually running with the opportunity and proving that he's an NFL caliber player. So Sam Webb would be 54th on my list, even after I tweeted out yesterday, when we talked about him in May, and I said he probably had the best chance of any of these undrafted guys.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I do the roster today, and I don't have him on the 53.
It's crazy because you think about it, too. It's like, it shows you how hard it is for an undrafted guy to make it. Because I kind of thought he would just be here, and then I look at Mullins back, Rock Ya-Sin, Anthony Everett. Oh, Hobbs is there, and Phillips is like, oh yeah. So like, how is it? Yeah, it's gonna be tough to see him make it. Yeah.
What it really came down to me is, I wanted to look at the versatility of the defensive backfield, and because Hobbs has shown that he can play outside, I think that they think he can, and he showed enough in camp. Webb's an outside corner. I don't see Webb going into the slot and being an effective guy in there. He's a long guy that needs to get his hands on guys can play press man. He's probably built to be an outside guy. But when you look at these guys, Ya-Sin's an outside guy. Hobbs can go out there if you need him to. Mullen's an outside guy. I think Averett's an outside guy. Phillips can go into the slot. Like if Webb was more of a slot guy and he could do both, and I was really confident he could do both, I probably would have kept him on this roster. I don't know if he could do that. They did have a matchup against a tight end, I think, in the slot in the game yesterday, but he was the toughest one for me. I think Amik Robertson is just, I loved him coming out of college. I just think his time has come. He just hasn't done enough, and he's not better than any of these other 5 guys on here. And I personally would keep Webb over him. So hopefully he catches on with another team if the Raiders move on from him. And we'll see what happens. It was tough when he came into the Paul Gunther system and they kind of just threw him in the slot when he was an outside guy in college. But those are my 5 defensive backs. So I kept a total of 24 defensive players. So 6 defensive linemen, 5 edge, 4 inside linebackers, 4 safeties, 5 corners.
All right. Let's roll to the wide receivers now. Adams, Renfro. We know we like those guys. So who else is gonna make up your 53 man on the wide receiver side?
I think Matt Collins is the clear number 3, and he's going to be a gunner on special teams, so he does add value there. I think we keep Tyron Johnson as the 4th guy. Again, kick returner. He was playing gunner. He's played gunner a couple times this preseason. He's also been one of the guys that's blocking the gunners on the return team. I ended up going your guy DJ Turner here. If you would have asked me 2 days ago, I would have had Cole. I just think when I start looking down this roster, who were the special teams players? And right now it's Teamer. Phillips, I think, will be Masterson. I think Kuntz will run down. I think Averett, Hollins. But there's not a ton of guys on here where I'm saying these are special teams guys you want running down. Turner did. He was on the kickoff coverage team yesterday. He was the inside guy next to Carlson running down there. He was the punt returner in the game. I think that Josh McDaniels is going to want that shifty guy that he can do some things with, some jet sweeps, some quick screens, some bubble screens, kind of get him in space, just kind of that jitterbug kind of guy. And he's physical. He's built like a running back. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in DJ Turner's career, you see him take some handoffs in the backfield just because of how he's built and how physical he can be. So I think you can just do so much more with him as your 5th wide receiver. And I think that they're going to be in a lot of 12, 22, 13 personnel where you're just not going to have a huge need for that 5th guy. And he's a guy that I think that, like I said, if they need a guy that can just play all the special teams, be a punt returner, be a kick returner, he can do all of that. So he brings a lot to the table.
Yeah, he does. Debo Turner in the backfield. Yeah, you got him in the backfield. You got him in the backfield now.
I think at some point you're going to see it.
Yeah,
he can do it.
That'd be fun. Because even on the one catch he had yesterday, like at the minute he catches it, he turns upfield. He breaks the tackle. He breaks the initial tackle, and then he is like a running back in space. That stocky build where it's just very difficult to. I mean, I think that's where I'm interested to see what they do with Abdullah, because he has that kind of same build where once he gets the ball, like people can't get low enough to get that tackle.
Here's the other thing when you think about Turner. When you think about the 49ers offense, when they go no huddle, they want to go 5 wide. They want to isolate the number 3 receiver on the middle linebacker and run those juke routes, whip routes, pivot routes, or turn routes. Other than Renfro, who's the guy in that room that you can count on to do that? Keelan Cole didn't really run those routes very well in the preseason. Now, he ran the slants and the posts, and he got open on some of the traditional stuff.
Yeah.
He didn't really show that kind of niftiness out of the slot, whereas I think Turner did. And Turner's just a physical guy. So I think that's going to set him apart as well, because if anything happened to Renfro, I would trust Turner to be able to run those kind of routes and win one-on-one over Cole. Cole's probably better on the outside, but you're not going to need him on the outside. And then if you look at the rest of these guys, Zuber had that interception yesterday. That was great. Seeing him back there at safety, I think he ends up on the practice squad.
It was
kind of that. If he could play offense, defense, special teams, like just to have that guy on the practice squad in case, if you're going to carry 4 safeties and you want to give a guy a day off, you can throw Zuber back there and just develop him as kind of a 2-way guy, just give him a niche. So we'll see. But yeah, 5 wide receivers for me. So far, 2 quarterbacks, 4 backs, 1 fullback, 5 receivers.
Oh, good to see my man DJ make this team. This is unofficial. This is Ryan Holmes's Ryan Holmes' squad. Tight end now, Waller, Moreau. We don't know the extent of Waller's injury. He also has dropped Clutch Sports for his agency, so I think there's like a 5-day period where he has to wait.
5 days, yeah.
5 days. So now he can go get another agent and try to negotiate that deal. So somebody dropped the ball there, so we'll see what happens there. In this tight end room, did Fotheringham, and Horsted do enough to make this team? It looked like Nick Bowers is such a good blocker; he might make the squad.
I ended up keeping 4. This was the hardest one for me. I went back and forth on which 4.
Ooh.
So clearly Waller and Moreau are the top 2.
Mhm.
I went Hollister as the third. We don't know what his injury is. I don't know if he's going to end up on IR and come back in 4 weeks or what. But I went back and he's played a ton of special teams in his career. I believe 2 years ago with Seattle, he played like 68 or 70% of special teams when he was in New
Mhm.
York. He's basically been at between 40 and 60% most of his career. So when you're looking for another guy who's going to be that special teams guy, they know him from New England. Ziegler, McDaniels, he's going to be the third tight end if he's healthy. He's going to play on your kick coverage teams. So that's what gave him the nod for me
Mhm.
over the other 3 guys. Fotheringham, I just don't think he's going to make this roster. And then the last spot came down to Horsted or Bowers. I ended up going Horsted. So I ended up not keeping Bowers on this team. I just think Horsted, I love his movement skills. I think he's a better athlete. If they're going to be running a ton of seam routes and trying to get these tight ends vertical,
Mhm.
I think he's just a better athlete. And I think that he blocks enough to where he can chip on some of these defensive ends before he goes out.
Mhm.
I think you can move him around. I think he can play in the slot. I think he can play H-back. I think he can play fullback if you needed him to, if something happened to Johnson. So I just think there's enough versatility. And then I thought about special teams. I just think, I'd rather have the better athlete running around on special teams if I needed him to.
Mhm.
And Bowers to me is kind of just that inline blocker. And I think that he hasn't blocked as well this preseason as he has in the past. And it's something like I could be wrong. Hollister could be going IR and then Bowers is on this team. We just don't know the injury. But if I had to pick, I would use Moreau kind of as that inline blocker. And that would give me the opportunity to move Waller out into the slot, match him up. I can move Waller outside to the X or the Z, and just be as creative as I want with Darren Waller and still have 3 tight ends. Because I think, like I said, you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel, 22 personnel, and I think you'll see some 13 personnel as well. And I just like the receiving options of Hollister and Horsted over what Bowers offers. So I changed that probably an hour before we started talking today because I did have Bowers on this team. And then I really thought about it.
Yeah.
If they haven't released Hollister yet, I would have to expect that he's going to be healthy for the season opener, or he's going to go on IR for 4 weeks, and then they'll keep Bowers. But right now,
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Hollister and Horsted.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we have talked. Everybody around Raider Nation has talked about offensive line. So I went to defense because I was like, let me just leave offensive line for last. So the left tackle, we can just go ahead and Colton Miller, and that's a given, and we don't got to worry about that. 100% healthy, has not touched the field in the preseason, so we don't have to worry about that. The starting that's one. The guards on this team. Who will be the guards on this football team going forward here?
I believe they're going to start John Simpson at left guard and Dylan Parham at right guard. That would be my guess. So I would put both of those guys in the starting unit.
So Simpson, Parham.
I think they're going to run so many screens, and then I just think Parham's a better pass blocker than both of those guys at this point. I just think his movement skills and space, when they want to pull guys and they want to, get out on the edge, they're going to need an athletic guard. And I think Parham's just shown enough the last couple of weeks. I know we got first team reps at left guard two games ago, and then obviously against the Patriots during the week. But I just think at the end of the day, the best 2 guards in this team are Simpson and Parham.
Yeah, makes sense. Are there any? So those are the guards there. So who's playing center? James.
Andre James. Yeah.
So we got James, and then right tackle, the controversial right tackle. I think I would start Illuminor. Who will be throwing in here on right tackle?
I would start Illuminor as well. I think he's the best pass blocker of their group. And I think that's probably your most athletic offensive line. He moves pretty well. He moves so quick off the ball. Sometimes I think he false starts, and I'm like, wow, they didn't throw a flag there. Like, he's really quick in getting into his pass sets. Now, that offensive line, I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball effectively well. Like, Simpson's basically the only guy in that line that's like a real run blocker. Colton Miller's a better pass blocker. James, not really powerful in the run game. Parham, we just don't know because he's a rookie, and Illuminor is clearly a better pass blocker than run blocker.
Yeah.
But if you want Derek Carr to stand upright and throw the ball to these weapons, that's the best offensive line to put out
So
there.
this would be if they're running outside zone and inside zone. This is the offensive line to do it with, right? They're not going to
And screens, yeah,
and screens, yeah, because they can move. They can move. It's like
yeah.
the old Denver Bronco offensive lines that can move and didn't have power, but they ran the football on anybody because they could do outside zone, inside zone. Who else on this offensive line? Who are the backups here?
So I ended up keeping 10 because I don't know that. Like again, I don't know the injury to Parker or Munford.
Yes,
we
got to be
know.
on it. Like you said, they got to be
have
on
to
it.
be on it.
They got to be on
if
it.
you want them to play this year, they have to be on it on Tuesday, and then you can do whatever you want Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then they're out a minimum of 4 games. So all the reports we've heard is Parker's injury is serious. Like he's going to miss at least 4 weeks, if not longer. So he's going to have to go on IR, which hopefully opens up a spot for Sam Webb, our guy, is the 54th guy. But I'm going to keep Mumford because I think he's going to make this team. I don't know what the injury history is. Hopefully here it's not serious. I'll keep Lester Cotton as the backup guard just because you're going to need another guard on this team. So that gives us 7.
Okay.
8 with Parker. So the last 2, I didn't know what to do with Leatherwood. I'm going to keep him on this team. I don't think the Raiders are going to get the trade they want. And I think because of the uncertainty with Mumford and Parker, you're going to have guys that can just be bodies. And they may go out and make a trade for a guy, but we're going with what's on the roster right now.
Right now, yeah.
I just don't think that they can release him because I think the cap hit is just too much to where you can at least try to develop this guy after 1 year. I would move him inside the guard personally. But if you needed to put him out of tackle for a week, if there's something happened where Illuminor, and then I started thinking, what happens if Colton Miller gets hurt? Like Illuminor is going to have to go to left tackle. So you're going to have someone on this roster that's healthy that could step in. If Mumford and Parker both go on IR, you have to keep Leatherwood, or you have to go get a right tackle. So based on the information we have, I would keep him. If they could trade him, I would do that because it would open up money. I was thinking about this today. Like, let's just use Isaiah Wynn, who didn't have a great game, and he's making $10 million. But if you could trade Leatherwood and say a 5th-round pick, send that to New England, and to get Wynn back, I think I would do that. Just because Wynn's proven to be a pretty good player when he's healthy.
And Wynn did he move from left to right? Like what's the
this year? Yeah.
So he's a right tackle now. So that everybody's saying he's pissed off because he's a right tackle now.
He's in his 5th year. Bill Belichick doesn't want to pay him left tackle money, so he said, "You know what? I'm going to put you on the right side." And then he didn't show up to mandatory camp because he wants to play left.
So is Trent Brown playing left?
Trent Brown's playing left.
Oh, okay.
And then he won't be the starting. My guess is over there is Michael Onwenu or Yadni Kajust, and I think they like both of those guys. They can play right tackle, or it could be someone else. It could be a guy they go get from another team. But if it's keep him or trade him, I would trade him. If it's keep him or release him, I would keep him. So I just don't think he has any trade value. You're gonna have to. I would think that you would have to attach some sort of pick to get a better player back, and no one's going to trade you a starting player for Alex Leatherwood unless you throw a pick in too at this point. So I'm going to keep him on the roster for now. He was horrible in the game against the Patriots. I watched every snap and I'm just like, okay, this is your opportunity, your 1st-round pick. You won the Allen Trophy, go out there. And he was getting thrown around. Like he got knocked over a couple times. He wasn't getting movement in the running game. He probably had his worst game of the preseason, but I would move him inside. So that gives us
DJ say the hits keep coming and coming. He just gets worse and worse every game. I mean, every preseason game.
That gets us to 9. So Miller, Illuminor, Mumford, Parker at tackle, Cotton, Parham, Simpson, Leatherwood, I would think, guard,
and
James at center. So the last cut to me came down to Jackson Barton or Sam Webb. Who do you keep? I kept Jackson Barton. I think Jackson Barton's going to get claimed by another team. I think he played well enough. No one has tackles. So if it came down to me, I would rather, because I don't know what's going on with Mumford or Parker. And Leatherwood, we know we don't want to put out there.
Yes.
You can't keep 2 healthy tackles on this roster. So you have to keep Jackson Barton, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't even risk it by cutting him, waiting for Parker to go on IR, and then bringing him back, because if another team claims it, you're done. Like, there is no enough. So to me, it's would I rather have Barton or Webb? Like on this team right now, I think I would rather have Barton.
You have to, because I think there's more. There's more teams have a more of an abundance of Sam Webbs than they do of Jackson Barton. So Jackson Barton is a commodity right now. If you need him to start 3 or 4 games, he had that little stretch with the Raiders where he was starting some games, but he always got hurt within the game. So it was like, 2 minutes in and he was out. But he is. I am from I'm on my favorite offensive lineman was Steve Wisniewski, who played to the echo of the whistle. Like he has some nastiness to him. Like I think you put one on one of your on one of your tapes. He was throwing people to the ground. I like stuff like that. Like that. I think that's you have to, if you're an offensive lineman and you're getting hit and pounded by these great athletes all the time in the run game and then in the pass blocking game, if you have a chance to drive somebody into the ground, you got to do it. And it's something I would love to see Andre James do sometimes on some of these runs, just bury these guys into the ground. But Jackson Barton makes sense. You could do worse than having him as one of your backup tackles.
He's the swing tackle right now. And until Mumford and Parker practice, he's the swing tackle. And, he's good enough, I think, at left tackle. I would call him functional. In baseball scouting terms, he's a functional left tackle. If anything happened to Colton Miller, I think you're okay putting Barton out there at left tackle and leaving Illuminor on the right side before I start switching Illuminor to left, trying to figure out right until Mumford's healthy. I think you could do worse than Jackson Barton. By no way do I think that he's like a league average left tackle or anything like that, but he's shown enough to be a serviceable swing guy. And then you saw him play left tackle and right tackle. And then he also played most of the game yesterday at left guard. So they tried him inside a little bit. It didn't go very well, but you can move him around. So I know some people want to keep Olaseni, the rookie undrafted guy. I just don't think that he's ready to play. Like if you keep him on this roster, you can't put him on the field. I think he's bound for the practice squad.
Practice squad.
Yeah. So I think that. So yeah, when I look at this, those are the 53 that I would keep. Now obviously if Parker, Mumford, Hollister, if any of these guys end up on IR, now we can talk about Webb and Butler and Bowers and some of these guys that didn't make it. But that's what I think they'll roll with. I could be completely wrong. I'll probably get 50 of the 53 here. We don't even need to talk about Cole Carlson or Sieg. They're on this team. Those are your specialists.
Yeah.
But that's the way I'm leaning right now. So I ended up keeping 10 offensive alignment and 11 defensive alignment.
And to your
the Raiders
point,
just have enough questions.
Yeah, they do. And to your point too, you mentioned about Barton going inside. I mean, McDaniels talked about it over and over and over again. He said that your offensive line is very unlikely that your starting five is your starting five for the whole offense, the whole season. So he put a bunch of different combinations out there to see what would work and see where they can put certain people. So I mean, it's probably the first time Jackson Barton played inside since high school. Who knows? It's probably been a long time, but on this team, everybody has to go everywhere. So
here's the weird thing. So let's say we keep 10, Parker goes on IR, you keep 9, you're going to dress 8. Who's the guy out of the 9 that are left that you're not dressing against the Chargers? I think there's a very real chance that Alex Leatherwood, if he makes this team, is going to be inactive for a couple of weeks until they can just get his mind right.
I mean,
and figure out what they want to do with him. Yeah, I just can't cut him. I just don't think you can eat $12 million or whatever it is this year and next year for a guy that's not on the roster.
You can't eat 20. You can't eat 22. Everybody wants them to cut Farrell and cut him. I mean, that's too much money. That's too much.
You got to replace those guys if you cut them. Like, who are you going to go? It's a sunk cost with Farrell. He's going to be on the team. There is a role for him on this team.
I mean, I think for this team, the end all be all for Leatherwood is going to be playing tackle. Like they have the guards. I think they have the people they want in the middle. Because he played a little bit better inside than he did outside, but they never really put, of all the combinations they put out there, they just put Leatherwood out there at tackle, and they gave him a game where they said, "Hey, we're not going to chip all. You're not Munford. Like, you played in the league already. We're going to actually put you out there and, let you see what you can do." And he just got eaten alive.
I still think Dylan Parham's best position is center. It would not surprise me at some point this year, if Andre James struggles, that they do move Parham over to center. And then hopefully you've developed Leatherwood for 8 to 10 weeks or 12 weeks. And he gets his mind right and he works on his technique because he is a good athlete. He's strong. It's all about hand placement with him right
It's so
now.
low every time.
It's something that should be coachable. Like if I don't understand what's going on there. Like he's athletic enough, like I said, to where he should be better. It's mental right now. There's something going on, but I still think he has a chance. And it's funny, you get on Twitter. I was bored today. I put Alex Leatherwood in Twitter, and like every team in the league wants him. All the Cowboys fans, and they want him to play left tackle. The Steelers fans all want him. There was like 7 or 8 teams. The Ravens guys want him, and it's like, have they not watched any tape?
All they see is Alabama left tackle, left or right tackle.
Well, unfortunately, the pro scouting departments have watched the tape, so they know.
Yeah, they know
what's going on. But I think in an ideal world, you trade him with a pick and try to get a guy back that's either a starting guard or a starting tackle that you could plug right in. I just don't know if there's a team willing to give you that at this point, because all these teams are like the Raiders, like they're searching for right tackles. Like how many teams in this league have really good right tackles? There's probably 4 or 5, and then there's probably 5 to 8 that have guys that are fill in capable guys, functional guys, and then there's probably 10 or 12 teams that are just playing a body because that's all they have. Like there's not a lot of Taylor Bowtons or Lane Johnsons or those kind of guys around there.
It's very difficult. To have a good left tackle is one thing. To have a good right tackle. So I mean, and they're not going to go from all accounts. The Raiders are going to go stay in house. They're not going to. I know people talking about getting Darrell Williams, getting another guy. They're going to have that. They're going to resolve their right tackle issue in house. I mean, even when Parker got hurt, they didn't go sign anybody. So
I do think, because of a guy's on the 53, I think it's the Wednesday of the opening week, his salary is guaranteed for the year. So you're going to see some veterans sign the Monday after week 1, September 12th, because then the salaries aren't guaranteed. So maybe that's when you start calling Darrell Williams or call some of these, Bobby Massey's or whoever it is out there. So you don't have to guarantee them their salary.
No.
I do expect, I texted you this today, that the Raiders put in waiver claims on 1 to 2 offensive linemen. So the 10 guys I just said are going to be on this team, I fully expect 2 of these guys won't be at some point. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens, man. It's going to be hectic to see. I mean, this is like a real tough decision this year because the Raiders have a really good roster. So we'll see what happens there. James from the 860 wants to know: Do we feel like this will be Jacobs' best season with the Raiders? I don't know if it's gonna be the best season with the Raiders. I mean, as far as yards per carry, it might be. You have to look at the offensive line too. Like, I mean, that zone stuff. He's good at that zone runs. So zone blocking scheme. So like they're gonna have to do some inside zone, outside zone with him. The power running is where I think they're gonna. If the offensive line is set up the way you have it, they're gonna struggle to run power.
Yeah, they're gonna have to throw the ball a lot and get him the ball in space. Will it be his best year? I don't think he's going to get the carries that he got his first 2 years. He might get a couple more pass catches. I don't think he's going to get the same amount of red zone work, because I think that's where you have Zamir White, and even Brandon Bolden could do that too. I just want to see him stay healthy for 17 weeks and not get nicked up every 3 or 4 weeks.
And see what it looks like.
Yeah. So I'm going to say no to that question. I don't think this production-wise, it won't be his best year.
Yeah, and I think also too, like they spread the backs. So I mean, even if he's doing well, they're gonna spread around.
I'll just throw the ball to Waller, Adams, and Renfro rather than turn around and hand it off for a 2-yard gain.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's a good, and you got Devontae too. So that's gonna, why not? Janet from the what's up 718 wants to what we think about Waller dropping Clutch. I mean, listen, I think Clutch is going to be, because it has Maverick Carter and all these people like LeBron James in that whole situation. People either LeBron James is either somebody you hate or somebody you like. So some people are like happy about it, some people are not happy about it. End of the day, he has to do it. I mean, he's not the first player to leave an agency. So that's not the big deal to me. I think he just wants to get that deal done. I don't think he wants to go into the season without guaranteed money. I think that's huge for him. All his boys and everybody else got their guaranteed money. I think he wants to go into the season with guaranteed money, Ryan.
Yeah, this when you see this happen, this is one of 2 issues. One, he's just not on the same page as the agent, and they're just not seeing eye to eye on what they want the contract to be. Or 2, the agent is trying to basically get a top of the market deal here so he can, for his next client, say, hey, I got Darren Waller this, when that's not a realistic option at this point. And Darren Waller probably is tired of fighting that battle and just like, you know what, I'm going to get someone else who's going to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I don't expect him to miss any time because of if he's hurt, but he's not going to miss any games because of this contract dispute.
Yeah,
I think the Raiders end up converting some money from next year into this year, whether that's $3 or $4 million, get them up to 9 or 10, and then rework the deal in the offseason. Because you got to understand from the front office perspective, this is a new regime. Darren Waller missed 5 or 6 games last year. He's missed a lot of camp. They want to see him healthy. They want to see him running around. But this offense is so dedicated to having tight ends run the seams. You have the perfect guy to run out there and Darren Waller to do exactly what they want to do. They were doing with Gronk. Like now imagine Darren Waller running those routes.
Exactly.
He will be on this team. Now the question is, does the front office want to give him a 3-year deal, or does Darren Waller want a 5 or 6-year deal? Because you got to remember, he's almost 30 years old. He might be 30 now. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. So you want to pay it? You want to give a tight end a 5 or 6-year deal that's going to be 35 or 36 at the end of this? The money he's going to want. So I think that this year he'll be fine. We'll see what happens moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you want to get it done. I think he's trying to take charge of the situation. That's why it's not getting done, Janet. Brian 619 wants to know, do you like the cornerback room? I like it. I think it's versatile. I think it's as long. You can do a lot. You can mix and match players inside and outside. I think Hobbs is just. I think Hobbs has a chance in this corner room to really shine. I think Nate Hobbs can be like a really fantastic player for this team. He tackles well. He's aggressive in coverage. I really am looking forward to see how he acclimates himself here under Patrick Graham here.
This is probably the deepest cornerback room the Raiders have had since probably 2001, 2002, when they had Woodson and Buchanan and Torrey James and those kind of guys. So
Torrey James.
I think just looking at these guys, they have a lot of guys that could be number 2s on a lot of teams. Like Rock Ya-Sin is a very good number 2. Nate Hobbs probably right now is a number 2. We'll see if he's better than that. Trayvon Mullen has proven he can be a number 2. Averett is probably a really good 3 or a low end 2, but he could be a 2 on some teams. And Phillips, I think, is versatile. He can play inside, outside on a lot of special teams, return punts. I don't know a ton about his ability. He was hurt last year with the Bengals, but he looks like he's a quality NFL player as well. So I don't remember the last time the Raiders had 5 guys. And then we'll see what happens with Webb and Robertson and the guys at the very back end of this roster. Maybe they end up on the practice squad, but I can't think of a time where they've had a deeper cornerback room in the last probably 20 years.
I agree.
That's saying a lot.
That's saying a lot. I like that. Let's see
the
here.
days of Shante Spencer, and who is the other guy that McKenzie brought in from the 49ers? I don't even remember at this point, but Ron Bartell from the Rams. Like, those days are long gone.
Oh my God. Wow.
Remember when they ran those guys out in 2014, Dennis Allen's first year?
Dennis Allen.
Ron Bartell and Shante Spencer.
Oh my God. I just have to go. So I'm gonna throw out the next question, and I'm gonna look at Dennis Allen, that roster with Dennis Allen, because I that first year I gotta see that. Let's see here. Is Isaiah Zuba the next Troy Brown? I don't think so. I mean, he's not making this team. Webb versus Amik. We know that.
I prefer Webb, but I don't think either one of them is going to make the initial 53. We'll call it the initial.
The initial 53.
He might be on the roster by Wednesday. We'll see.
And
look at the 2014 Raiders roster.
I can't wait to see this roster. Oh my God. 2014 the Raiders roster. And thank the Lord we don't gotta go through and look at that anymore. Pro Football Focus. Pro Football Reference here. The Raiders roster. The great Sean Tarver calling plays. So on defense, you had Justin Tuck, Justin Ellis.
That would have been Ellis's rookie year, right, Jelly?
Yeah, Jelly. C.O. Moore, Miles Burris, Khalil Mack.
roster's come a long way.
Terrell Brown, Brendan Ross, DJ Hayden is on this team. Miles Burris, and
San Diego State.
CJ Wilson. This is great stuff here. Right tackle Milnick Watson. The guard they had. That's when they had. Right, Carr played with Carr. Oh, Stephen Wisniewski. I was gonna say Carr didn't play with Stephen Wisniewski.
That's Carr's rookie year, yeah.
That's rookie year. So So the offensive line was Penn, Jackson, Stephen Wisniewski, Austin Howard, and Menelik Watson. Tight end was Michael Rivera, James Jones, Andre Holmes.
Rod Streeter might have been on that team.
Rod Streeter. I'm talking about the starters.
Maybe he was the next year. Yeah.
McFadden and Reese were on that team as well. So, yep.
Raiders roster is a lot better now than it was
in
2014.
God. Oh man, they had my boy, top 5 worst Raider linebackers ever. Ray Armstrong. God, I hated Ray Armstrong. I hated that dude. I couldn't stand that dude. That was terrible. Oh my God. What was the Bryce Butler's on this team? TJ Carey. Oof, man, this is rough. John Condo in the building.
Maybe Spencer and Bartell were 2015, but they were starting corners in that early days.
Bartell was on them, but Bartell was on. I know about Bartell, but I know Bartell was on this team. Let me see if I can do it by corner. If I can do it by position. Do it by position. Was he on this team at corner? Boy, he was bad. Remember Keith McGill?
Yeah. Utah, right? 25 at the draft from Utah.
Nico Thorpe. He
hung around for a while. He went to Auburn. He hung around. He went to the Seahawks and played a little bit.
I was gonna say he was a good special teams player with the Seahawks. Let me see here. Who else we got?
The 53-man roster turned into the walk down 2014's roster.
Carlos Rogers. Oh my God, that's terrible. Okay, 2014. We
shouldn't say Carlos Francis. Remember him?
Oh my God. As I digress. Raider Nation, thank you for joining us here. Cool stuff. I kind of love that 53-man roster. We'll see what happens when the real deal comes through. Tough decisions. I mean, because if we're sitting here like looking at it and being like, who the hell do we pick? You got to figure they're doing the same thing too. Yeah. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that in the future with the Raiders coming up this year. And then next week, got some good stuff with Josh McDaniels in that offense. I mean, it's interesting. And you know, every time I saw the Raiders run a seam pass down the middle, the horse said, I was like, damn, Darren scoring on that one. Yeah. So that's why we got to get Darren back on the field. So as far as that goes,
even Moreau's good at running those seam routes.
Yeah, he is. Just hold on to the ball, Moreau. Hold on to the ball. I can't stand people soft with the
outside arm closest to the sideline.
Yes. Seriously, my goodness, I can't believe I can't even score a touchdown on that play. All right, Raider Nation. Ryan Holmes, Dwayne Douglas, we out. Take care. Peace.
Take care.